Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. President Biden and GOP candidate DeSantis are both in California today. Biden spoke to climate issues and DeSantis is fundraising after challenging California Governor Newsom to a presidential run. The LA Dodgers just held their annual Pride Night, where protesters gathered at the stadium late Friday evening to protest the baseball team's decision to honor a controversial trans nuns group. A controversial state bill is up for a vote tomorrow. Critics of the bill are calling it, quote, state-sanctioned kidnapping. In light of the presidential race, President Biden and candidate Ron DeSantis both visited California today. The two 2024 candidates delivered speeches and held campaign events in Northern California. NTD's David Lamb reports.
California, the Golden State, has a huge economy and population that affects the rest of the U.S. Now, on Monday, President Biden arrived in Silicon Valley and went through this street on a motorcade to a salt marsh nearby. He delivered his remarks on his energy and environmental-related plans. President Biden arrived on Monday and expected to stay for a few days. He was joined by California Governor Gavin Newsom and Congresswoman Anna Eshoo at the Lucy Evans Baylands Nature Preserve. The president talked about combating climate issues, creating good-paying, clean energy jobs, and protecting the environment for future generations.
Starting tomorrow, the Department of Commerce will launch the first and largest competitive climate resilience regional challenge to provide $600 million to coastal and Great Lake communities that are building projects to protect against impacts of climate change from sea level rise, flooding, and storm surge.
Biden also mentioned a $2 billion investment in upgrading the country's electric grid and the first ever White House summit with local, territorial, and tribal leaders. He's also heading to visit Los Gatos and Atherton for campaign receptions in the afternoon and evening. Meanwhile, GOP presidential candidate Ron DeSantis headed to Sacramento for a fundraiser. DeSantis previously admitted to transporting several dozen migrants to Sacramento. California Governor Newsom and DeSantis have been publicly criticizing each other for some time now, with Newsom calling on DeSantis for a debate. And DeSantis responded June 15th by challenging him to a run for president.
Are you going to throw your hat in the ring and challenge Joe? Are you going to get in and do it? Or are you just going to sit on the sidelines and chirp? So why don't you throw your hat in the ring, and then we'll go ahead and talk about what's happening.
Newsom has repeatedly said that he's not interested in running for president. However, there is some speculation about the motives behind why he ran a Florida ad that he endorsed, as well as policy analysts saying that some of his actions could be laying a groundwork for a future presidential bid. Now, President Biden and Newsom is expected to meet on Tuesday for a fundraiser. In Palo Alto, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
A passionate, faith-based gathering at the legendary LA baseball venue was held by protesters to honor their religion and to express their First Amendment rights. The massive, peaceful event was attended by people from all over Southern California. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
Thousands of Catholics and Christians protested the Dodger game on Friday night during an event where the team was honoring the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. This protest took place after months of controversy and backlash, with the baseball team inviting, disinviting, and eventually re-inviting the trans nuns group back to their Pride Night game against the San Francisco Giants. Many protesters were offended by what the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence stands for. Tommy Valentine, the director of the Catholic Accountability Project, shared with us his concerns with the group mocking his religion.
And that's why it's so offensive what these men are doing, is because they take everything that these sisters and that our church does for good, and they twist it and they invert it and they make fun of it and they desecrate it.
According to the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence website, they use humor and irreverent wit to expose the forces of bigotry, complacency, and guilt that chain the human spirit.
Our message today is that anti-Catholic bigotry has no place in baseball, and what the Dodgers are doing, awarding this anti-hate group, is unacceptable. On the same token, we're here to pray, we're here to show love. We don't hate the men who pose as fake nuns. We don't hate anybody in there. We want them to see that what they're doing is offensive, it's sacrilegious, it's blasphemous, and we can't let it stand without saying something about it. So we're here to pray, we're here to show love, in contrast to the hatred that's going on inside the stadium.
The event took place in a corner of the stadium parking lot, which resulted in shutting down the main gate into the stadium. One of the protesters, Bob Tarn, explained to us why he came out on a Friday night to support the protest.
To express my views and pray for the Dodgers and the group, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And it's important that we celebrate the way God made us. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence and other gay people are welcome to celebrate who they are. But please don't do it by hating other people, expressing bigotry, and hurting, assaulting other people's dignity.
Many people were disappointed when they learned of the Dodgers' decision to honor the group with a Community Hero Award and decided to stand up for their religion and what they believe in.
I responded very sad to hear that the Dodgers was doing this because it's against our beliefs, it's against Catholic beliefs, and it's against our God, and it's against our faith.
A lot of the people that live in LA, they grew up going to Dodgers games, but like it comes to a point where if you need to stand up for Jesus and you can't go to support them, don't give them your money. Like stay home, do other things. But we need to stand up for our beliefs.
Although the San Francisco Giants swept the Dodgers this past weekend, we can look forward to the team's next event. The Dodgers will host a Christian Faith and Family Day at Dodger Stadium on July 30th. Christina Corona, NTD News, Los Angeles.
California lawmakers will vote on a bill tomorrow that critics are calling state-sanctioned kidnapping. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with attorney Nicole Pearson from the legal firm Truth, Law, Facts, Justice to find out the details.
AB 665 is sponsored by California Senator Scott Wiener and Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo.
Young people are experiencing a new reality.
The law would allow kids 12 and up to leave home and check into a residential facility without parental consent. All they would need is a school counselor or another so-called professional person to agree. The law would remove any requirement of an allegation of abuse or incest or risk of serious bodily injury or death.
This is a bill about stripping parents of their fundamental rights to take care of their children. Not only that, but their actual legal obligation and ethical and moral obligation to take care of their children without due process of law, without notice, without any allegations of abuse or neglect, and without an opportunity to defend themselves before the child is removed from their custody.
Pearson outlines an example.
If we have a child who says they don't feel comfortable going home because they had a fight with their mom and dad about TikTok, their Instagram, about bad grades, about drinking and driving or using drugs, whatever the case may be, they have a huge fight, they go to school, they're upset, the teacher sees they're upset, their friends see they're upset, and they say, why don't you go take a break in the counselor's office?
They then go to the counselor, who can even be an intern.
And that professional person says, well, why don't you go take a break in the shelter down the road for a couple of days, let things cool off, and actually a couple of your friends are already there. Of course, the child's going to say, okay, they're talking to their school counselor. They think this person has their best interest in mind. They think that they would not lead them astray or do anything that would ever expose them to any danger.
Pearson says there are plenty of teens who would take the counselor up on their offer, exposing themselves to unknown dangers in residential facilities. Some such places are known to be frequented by predators and drug dealers.
And then you will be facing that uphill battle that will cost you tens of thousands of dollars and months of extraordinary pain to get your child back when you have done nothing wrong. And all the meanwhile, they've been in these overburdened shelters, neglected and exposed to Lord only knows what in the end.
Pearson is sounding the alarm on this bill and asking for public support.
AB 665 is being heard actually this Tuesday, June 20th at 1:30 p.m. in the Senate Judiciary Committee. We encourage and are actually asking everybody to show up at the hearing.
Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
NTD reached out to the sponsors of the bill for comment, specifically on the allegation that it strips away parental rights. We did not hear back before broadcast. We'll take a short break now, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. San Francisco is now requesting help from the federal government to tackle the city's fentanyl crisis. The new resources will come from Operation Overdrive. 10 governors have sent a letter to Congress asking them to overturn California's animal welfare law. They say the strict state regulations have overreaching impacts on other states. And some communities in the Bay Area are getting a new public transit service. It's similar to rideshare apps, but for city transit. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Zhang. The federal government is stepping in to help combat San Francisco's fentanyl crisis. The new resources has come after former Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent a letter asking for the city to be designated as Operation Overdrive.
The U.S. Department of Justice on Friday announced it approved an Operation Overdrive designation for San Francisco. This means there will be new federal resources to combat the city's fentanyl trafficking epidemic. This comes after Representative Nancy Pelosi sent a letter to the DOJ in April, urging Attorney General Merrick Garland to designate the city for Operation Overdrive status. According to the Assistant Attorney General, San Francisco's fentanyl crisis needs attention, and now. We also appreciate your focus on the pressing issue of criminal networks distributing fentanyl in certain neighborhoods. In a statement, Pelosi said, Operation Overdrive will help our city address this tragedy by targeting the criminals who are doing the most harm, removing deadly fentanyl from our streets, and reducing related violence. Last week, Governor Gavin Newsom said the California Highway Patrol seized enough fentanyl in San Francisco during the past 6 weeks to kill over 2 million people, enough to kill the city's population 3 times over. The agency seized over 4.2 kilos of fentanyl. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, a lethal dose of fentanyl is 2 milligrams. In addition, authorities also seized methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and made 92 felony and misdemeanor arrests. The crisis isn't just hurting humans, but animals too. The Yuba City Police Department helped save someone's puppy, named Wednesday, after the owner suspected someone had given it fentanyl. An officer gave her 2 doses of Narcan, and she was brought back to life.
Speaking of San Francisco, 10 years ago, the city's police department was one of the most desired jobs on the West Coast. Today, the city is hitting record low numbers of recruits joining the department. A former officer shares more on what's happening in the city.
California Insider's Siamak Karami sat down with former San Francisco police officer Joel Aylworth to get an insight into what's happening to the city's police force.
In 2013, when I lateraled from the Oakland Police Department to San Francisco, it was one of the most desirable police departments to work for, especially on the West Coast. And it was challenging to get in. It was competitive. Lots of people wanted to go there. And in my class alone, there are about 20 laterals, which is a huge class. That's one of the biggest classes they've ever had.
Aylworth explains that record low numbers are leading to police shortages, so officers in San Francisco are having to put aside calls that are not urgent.
Now what we're seeing in 2023 is the complete opposite. Nobody wants to work, nobody wants to do police work, number one. And number two, nobody wants to do police work in San Francisco. So that's a huge problem.
According to city data, staffing for the police department has declined 20% since 2018. Aylworth says that the police shortage is not only impacting everyday life, but is also affecting businesses' willingness to operate in the city. A large number of retailers have decided to call it quits in the city over the last couple of years, including Nordstrom, Saks Off 5th, Anthropologie, Office Depot, H&M, and most recently Whole Foods Market.
And I think there is a feeling of it's just so rampant, it's becoming normalized, we're becoming desensitized, and some of the citizens have voted for a lot of these policies. And I think as an officer, I promise you, officers want to do the right thing. They want to capture the bad guy. They want to do their job to the fullest. But if they feel like they can't, there's a little bit of apathy there going, I mean, what do you want me to do?
Besides being short-staffed, Aylworth says officers also face extensive regulations from various parties.
In 2016, the DOJ, I believe, came in, and so we have massive oversight, and we are doing what the DOJ or these federal organizations would call 21st century policing. And so we have a DOJ oversight, we have a DPA, which is our Department of Accountability. They essentially are a citizen board that takes complaints, and they are on top of our internal affairs. So internal affairs also looks at officer complaints. They're a citizen board that looks at officer complaints. And then we have a commission, and a commission is like, I don't know, 6 to 10 elected officials that also oversee the department. So we have a ton of oversight and a ton of people that are influencing and implementing their ideas of what they think 21st century policing is. The problem is most of those people have never been nor are they police officers, and they're just so out of touch.
Additionally, Aylworth says that local leaders' soft-on-crime policies and anti-police attitude made policing more and more difficult.
The media aggrandizes and embellishes a lot of things that the police do that, in my head, I'm like, that's not newsworthy. And matter of fact, I know that incident, but you're only telling 50% of the story to generate sensationalism and news.
As for the future of San Francisco, Aylworth says that turning the city around will be difficult, but with people working together, there's light in the end.
To watch the full program, find California Insider on YouTube or Epic TV on the Epic Times website. What happens in California appears to have rippling effects. The Iowa governor and 9 other governors oppose imposing regulations on the production of agricultural products outside the state. They say American consumers will bear additional costs and worsen the inflation crisis.
Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed a letter urging Congress to overturn California's animal welfare law, also known as Proposition 12. Reynolds said the regulations will pass the buck to American consumers and worsen the inflation crisis. Approved by California voters in 2018, Proposition 12 mandated certain conditions for livestock for meat sold in the state. 9 other Republican governors joined the letter and called on Congress to pass the Exposing Agricultural Trade Suppression Act. The act would ban states from imposing regulations on the production of agricultural products outside the state. Reynolds said that California's activist-drafted requirements will have a dramatic negative impact on those facing food insecurity. She said, quote, "It's time for Congress to use their power and allow pork producers around the country to do what they do best." Iowa leads the nation in pork production, raising about 1/3 of the country's pigs.
Northern California's city of East Palo Alto and some coastal communities are getting a new public transit service. SamTrans introduced their new fleet of vans that will offer on-demand rides. NTD heard more about the new service and hopped on a ride to give it a try.
Lost anyone at a press conference. I'm not starting now.
SamTrans just debuted its new Ride Plus microtransit service. It's a fleet of new vans servicing the areas of Half Moon Bay, El Granada, East Palo Alto, and the Bellhaven neighborhood of Menlo Park.
Well, I think one of the things is that they can go when they want to go. If I want to leave now, I'm going to get on the app and I'm going to punch it in, and the app will tell me when the bus will be here, and it'll warn me. And if I want, I can follow the path of the bus on my app.
Rado says the cost of one trip is the same as a regular bus, and multiple people can hop on. Unlike other rideshare services, these vans have a fixed price, so passengers won't need to worry about surge charges or other fees.
And honestly, I think that the technology is just as good as what Uber and Lyft and all the on-demand TNCs use. So, hey, try us out. Only $2.25.
In today's economy, when things are on demand, and that's the future. Like thinking about how you can people want things instantly. They want it to be able to work. They want it fast. So to have transportation that's an on-demand model can make a huge difference. We talked a little bit about the SamTrans bus line that would go through the Gardens area. They had to cut that bus line because oftentimes the bus was too large and it couldn't get through the community.
Mayor Gaucher says the vans are also a way to help reach the elderly and disabled people in the communities that regular buses cannot. Now, these vans will not go directly to the airport, but will instead take passengers to the nearest bus that does. And bikers are out of luck since there's no bike rack on the vans. But Mayor Gaucher encourages people to try out the service, especially for short trips around town.
I think they have to get used to it and trust that the vehicles are actually here. So, once a few people have taken the ride and it's been successful and they can share their stories, I think others will rely on it and believe in it, and they will take it as well.
The service began on June 18th and is currently free through the end of this month. After this period, the fare will be $2.25, and if you pay with Clipper Card, it's $2.05.
Now let's check in with NTD's Tyler Castillo for our Sports Roundup.
Let's dive into the Sports Roundup for today. I'm Tyler Castillo.
Warriors' Draymond Green declined his last-year player option at the cost of $27.6 million, making him now an unrestricted free agent where he can choose to walk from the Warriors if desired and join any team that pursues him. Draymond Green has been part of the main Warriors dynasty that allowed for the franchise to win 4 championships in the past decade. If Draymond Green decides to walk, it will be the end of an era for the Golden State team. Lamonte Wade Jr. hit a 3-run home run, and J.D. Davis added a pinch-in grand slam as visiting San Francisco rolled to a sweep over Los Angeles to extend its winning streak to a season-best 7 games. Brandon Crawford had 4 hits, and left-hander Alex Wood went 5 scoreless innings in his return from the injury list as the Giants swept the series against the Dodgers. It was the Giants' largest margin of victory over the Dodgers since a 19-3 win in 2013. Giants 15, Dodgers 0. The Sharks and Erik Karlsson's camp met up recently to discuss the future of the franchise, where they both reportedly left the meeting in agreement that a trade is the best course of action. Erik Karlsson is one of the nominees for the Norris Trophy and put up the most points by a defenseman since 1996 season. Karlsson comes at a hefty price, where teams will have to allow room for $11.5 million annually counted towards the team's salary cap. During the 2023 regular season, the Edmonton Oilers showed interest, but no move was able to proceed. Karlsson has only played for 2 teams in his career, the Ottawa Senators and the San Jose Sharks, and now there's possibility of playing for another franchise.
And that is all for the Sports Roundup for today. I'm Tyler Castillo.
Thanks, Tyler, and that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gunjin World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.